Hi students, so today we are going to talk about two verbs that mean something that's almost the same, but they can't be used interchangeably, or you can't switch which one you use. You can't use one instead of the other. And the two words we're going to talk about today are borrow and lend. So borrow or lend. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard these words before. I'm sure you have, but borrow and lend are both verbs. So since they're verbs, we know that there can be a present tense and a past tense. So borrow can be borrowed if you're using it in the past tense. So if you're talking about it in the present tense, you say, I borrow my brother's computer. If you were using the past tense, I borrowed my brother's computer. Now lend is the present tense, lent is the past tense. I can lend you $20. That's present tense. He lent me his new car. That's past tense. So what is the difference? So borrow or borrowed, right? Borrow means that you take something for a short time. And the example I have is I borrowed my dad's book. So my dad's books. The focus of the word borrow, of the verb borrow, is it's focusing on somebody. It doesn't have to be you. It's just somebody is taking something from another person for a short time. The focus is on the person that is getting the thing, right? So that's why we use borrow, because this person is the focus of the word borrow. That person borrowed the books. I borrowed my dad's books. So the focus is on the person that took the thing, that takes the thing. Now, with lend or lent, lend means that somebody is giving something for a short time. So instead of focusing on the person that's taking the thing, it focuses on the person that's giving the thing for a short time. So instead of saying, I borrowed my dad's books, when you say, my dad lent me his books, you're focusing on the person that is giving the thing, who's giving the books, right? So the focus is my dad. So even though what's happening in both of these scenes is the same, these are both the same thing that's happening. Somebody is giving something to somebody else. Somebody is getting something from somebody else. But the reason we use different words to describe the action is because borrow is focusing on the person that's taking the thing. And the word lend or lent is about the person that's giving the thing, not taking. So if you say, I need to borrow a phone, you're focusing on you getting a phone, on you taking a phone, right? But if you say, they lent me a phone, you're talking about the person that gave you the phone, right? That gave the phone. So that's what lent is. They lent me a phone. So even though if you were talking about what happened, the phone went from one person to another person. They gave their phone to them. They gave me their phone. That's what's happening. It's the same thing. It's just when you use the word borrow, you're focusing on the person that's taking. And when you use lend or lent, it's focusing on the person that's giving the object. So I'm going to have some examples on why you can't really use them the same way. So, can I borrow your phone? Can you lend me your phone? Both of these, what's the difference between these two sentences? Can I borrow your phone? Can you lend me your phone? So The focus is this one right here, can I borrow your phone, is saying, I need your phone. I need you to give me your phone. I need to take your phone. I need to use your phone. It's focusing on the person that's going to get. Can I borrow your phone? But if you say, can you lend me your phone? You're saying, hey, can you give it to me? Now, can I borrow your phone? Can you lend me your phone? Even though they're a little bit different, you could use this sentence or this sentence to ask to use somebody's phone, and people would say, okay, I know what they're asking, and they wouldn't really be different. So in this case, they aren't super different. You could say, can I borrow your phone? Can you lend me your phone? Because at the end, the same thing is going to happen. The person is going to give you the phone, right? But sometimes there is a big difference. So, can I borrow your phone? That's correct. But if you use the word lend instead of borrow, can I lend your phone? It isn't that this is incorrect grammar. It's not that this is bad English. It means something super different. Can I borrow your phone means, can I please take your phone and use it? Can I lend your phone means, can I give your phone to somebody else? So you see how that's different? One is saying, can I use your phone? And the other one, can I lend your phone, means, can I give your phone to somebody else? Can I let somebody else use your phone? So it's not that it's incorrect. It's just that it means something super different than asking somebody. If you need to ask somebody, can I use your phone? You say, can I borrow your phone? Right? But you could also say, can I lend your phone? But that would mean that you're asking to give their phone to somebody else. Can you lend me your phone? Now we talked about that, can I borrow your phone? Can you lend me your phone? Those two mean the same thing. Not exactly the same, but pretty much the same thing. People will understand them as the same thing is happening. But if you said, can you borrow me your phone? That one doesn't work. It's incorrect because it's just confusing. It's not okay English grammar. It's not good English grammar because you're using a lot of, can you borrow me your phone? Who are they talking about? Who is borrowing? It's kind of confusing. So you don't want to use borrow. If you're asking to use something, you say, can I borrow? Or can you lend me? Or can you lend them? Can they borrow? That's how we ask to use things from other people that we need to, give back to them. But you can't say, can I lend your phone? Because that means something different. And you can't say, can you borrow me your phone? Because that one's just confusing. They don't know who you're talking about, because when, can you borrow? You're asking somebody else to take something that's yours. So that's why it's kind of hard to understand for English speakers. So he borrowed the car. That's correct. He borrowed the car means he has been given the car to use for a short time. Let me fix. We've kind of talked about this verb tense. It's kind of confusing. He has been given the car to use for a short time. So that means he borrowed the car, he took the car, right? He lent the car. Now, even though we just switched the word borrowed and lent, right? He lent the car, he borrowed the car. He lent the car is correct as well. It just means something different. When you say he lent the car, it means that he gave the car to somebody else to use for a short time. But if you say he borrowed the car, it means that he was given the car, he took the car to use for a short time. Somebody else gave him the car to use for a short time instead of him giving the car. You say he lent, it means you give. You say he borrowed, it means somebody else gave it to him. So what's the difference? She is lending me her jacket. So just like all the other verbs, you can put an ing at the end, right? Lending, borrowing. She is lending me her jacket. It means that she, whoever she is, my mom, my sister, gave me their jacket to wear. That's what lending is. She is lending me her jacket. She is borrowing me her jacket. That one is incorrect because just because of this part right here that says me, you don't want to use that in English. You would say, she is borrowing my jacket, right? She is borrowing my jacket, or you could say she is borrowing her jacket, but you can't use two different people next to each other when you're using the word borrow. Kind of confusing, I know. But when you say lending or lent or lend, you can use two people, right? Because you're talking about the two people. But if you're talking about borrowing, you only want to talk about, the thing that's being borrowed, the thing that's being taken, or she is borrowing her jacket, right? You're going to talk about the thing. You're not going to say, oh, here's another person, right? So that's correct. You borrow something from another person and you lend something you own to someone else. So borrowing is taking what somebody else has for a short time, and lending is giving somebody something that you have, right? For a short time. Now, I'm going to show you some, but real quickly, I want to go to this first, just so we have this. So like I said, you borrow something is when you're taking from another person. Lending is when you're giving something to another person, right? But you need to remember that you only use borrow or borrowed or lend or lent if you can give it back. We use borrow and lend if we're talking about things that somebody else is going to use for a short time, and then they're going to give it back, right? So you can't use it for things that you can't give back to somebody, right? So if you said, can I borrow your dinner? Or can you lend me your dinner? It doesn't work because you would eat the dinner and you can't give it back to them. You could make some more dinner, but you can't borrow it. You can't give them back the same dinner. You can't give them back the same thing that you took. And that's what borrowing and lending is. It's giving back. It's giving to people and then giving it back, right? The same thing that you did. So you can borrow a phone because you can give somebody your phone and they can give it back to you, right? You can lend, you can borrow a phone because it's the same thing that's coming back and forth. But you can't lend or borrow like food because it's something that you eat, or something that you don't want to give back to them. If you said, can I borrow a tissue to blow my nose? You don't want to give it back to them. You're going to throw it away. So you don't say, can I borrow a tissue? You say, can I have a tissue? Can you give it to me to have and not give back? And then I wanted to talk to you about some English phrases that you'll hear that are they don't make sense with the verbs that they're used with. So, can you lend me a hand? Just means, can you help me with this? They're not asking you to give them, can you give me your hand? That's not what they're asking. They're asking you, can you help me with this? That's what can you lend me a hand means. You know what? And people could say, can you lend me a hand? Can you give me a hand? It just means, can you help me with this, right? Somebody says, hey, can I borrow your time? You must be thinking, how do you borrow time? How do I give you? Oh, It's saying, can I talk to you about something? Can you give me your time? Can you come and be around me for a little bit? And it usually means when somebody says it, they're usually trying to say, can I talk to you about something really quickly? Right? Is it something that I can do with you and then you can go? It's not going to take a long time. So that's what it means when you say, can I borrow your time? So that's it for the lesson today. It's another short one, but I hope these are helpful and I hope you guys are doing good.